From the Chatterbox Sports Studio in Hamilton, Ohio, this is Not Too Picky with Paul Fritschner.
Let's go. I love the intro music, and this is the debut episode of Not Too Picky with Paul Fritschner. As John Moses said, the voice of the Altoona Curve. This is live from the Chatterbox Sports Studios from Hamilton, Ohio. The producer over there, Casey McAllister. We have Brandon Seho with us. We're going to have Reed Mouse on in this show. We have a great guest in Tim Murray. This is a loaded first show with you, and we're going to get into all of that right now. The show is going to be running at 2 p.m. on Mondays and Thursdays right now. That's the tentative schedule of this show. Not Too Picky, again, from here in Hamilton, and I could not be more excited to really get into this Southwest Ohio sports gambling landscape. If you know me, then you know that I perfectly fit the mold of that mid-20s guy with a love for sports betting. I've dabbled in it. I've talked about it. You tweet about it a little bit. Do you want to tweet about it a lot? Do you want to go back and forth? Do you really want to dive head first? Well, that's what we are doing on this show now. We're getting right into it with sports gambling, and especially sports gambling in Southwest Ohio. You can follow the show at Not Too Picky on Twitter. That's NOTTOO Picky, so spelling it all out. And then you can follow me at Paul Fritschner. It's going to be available on all podcast platforms: Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Anywhere that you can find podcasts, you'll be able to listen to Not Too Picky. Those will be available probably in the next couple of days as they all get added onto the platforms once I upload today's episode. Let's talk a little bit about how this show is going to work, right? 2 episodes a week. There's a lot of games going on, as we all know, all day long, everywhere around the world. So you got 2 episodes a week to break it all down. We're going to focus on Southwest Ohio. I teased that in the beginning. The first segment of each show, which will be broken down into 3 segments, is going to talk about Southwest Ohio. So if you think about it, where we're sitting in Hamilton, which is about a half hour, 40 minutes north of Cincinnati, right around this area, you have Dayton to the north of us. You have Miami of Ohio a little bit to the west of us. You have Wright State. You have Xavier. You have Cincinnati. You also have FC Cincinnati. You have the Reds. You have the Bengals. You have Northern Kentucky. A little bit to the east, you have Ohio State. A little bit to the west, you have IU. You have Butler. You have Purdue, Fort Wayne. You have Notre Dame in Indiana. All of these teams around this area that we are going to focus on, but especially here in Southwest Ohio, between Miami and Dayton, Wright State, all of them, all the way down to Northern Kentucky, and then even down into the Wildcats down later. So that's all going to be in the first segment of the show here in this intro. Then in the second segment of the show, we're going to have interviews. I'm going to bring on professionals from around the sports gambling landscape. I like to think of myself as a professional, but I don't know. I think we'll let the results we'll let the results of these episodes play out, and we'll see how professional I am. But we're going to try our best. And so that interview, which today will feature Tim Murray, who is the primetime host of the VZIN Network. He hosts that show alongside Sean King, who's a Super Bowl winning quarterback from back in 2003, was on that Bucs team. He was a third-string quarterback back on that Bucs team that won the Super Bowl in the early 2000s. Sean and Tim host that show together. Tim's been a great help to me in starting this show, and I thought who none better to have on as the first guest for the show. Tim Murray will be joining us. He'll talk Bengals. He'll talk the college football slate for this weekend. And I'll tell you what, I put Tim on the spot. I asked him, if we're going to have a first guest of this show, we got to have a winner. So I asked him for one winner, and he turned around and he kind of gave us, I think, 3 winners, maybe, fellas. I think if we're trying to make some money for this weekend, I think he may have given us 3. He gave us, you know what he did? He gave us 2 leans and a winner. And Chatterbox co-founder Trace Fowler, who's sitting out behind the wall right behind us, I'm sure Trace is going to absolutely love the winner that Tim Murray gave us. So you can listen to all of that later on in the show. So that's how this is all going to work. You can listen to it. You subscribe, podcast platforms everywhere. And the other big thing that I'm going to count on, and I have it right here pulled up in front of us. I have, if you know me, you know how important a High C orange is to me, my personal brand and my personality. So I have that alongside me. But I also have the YouTube chat pulled up to the right of me. I see a lot of you are very active here starting this show today. And here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do with the YouTube chat. I'm going to ask for a winner. I love social media. I love YouTube. I love how the internet works. It's just how I roll. I'm going to look at this YouTube chat at the beginning of every show. I'm going to ask all of you that are watching this show to figure out a winner. Just amongst yourselves, argue back and forth, do whatever you want to do. But you all, amongst yourselves, have to figure out a winner to give me by the end of the show. Now, you guys are about, 90 seconds or so probably. What do you think, Casey? About 90 seconds behind?
Yeah, they're about 90 seconds behind.
About 90 seconds behind what I'm saying right now. So when you're in this chat, about 3 minutes left in the show, I'll look at this chat, and I will take the pick that the chat gives me. Every show, I will take the pick. Whatever you all agree on in this chat, I'll take it, and we'll see if collectively we can be a good gambling show together. Because it's not just me. This is a team effort. We're all in this together, right, Casey?
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, the people know. They know what they're talking about, man.
I know that I have intelligent listeners on this program, and I know I have intelligent viewers.
Absolutely.
So to everybody watching and listening, make sure you get in this YouTube chat. Make sure you hit me up in this chat, and we can go through our winners together. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because not only on this channel, you'll have this show, you'll have every other show that we produce here at Chatterbox, all of our content coming out through this YouTube channel, so you make sure you do that as well. Is there anything as far as administration and cleanup that I have not hit in the first 6 minutes of this episode, Casey?
No, I think you're good to go, man.
Okay.
I mean, I think we've hit it.
Well,
all the different.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't tease how this show got its name, right? So you're sitting there and you're thinking to yourself, okay, what am I listening to? Why am I listening to this? And I also want to give a shout out to my good friend Tom Wilkinson he was a Xavier graduate, and he is now at the University of Connecticut, who took care of the graphic design for this show. Love the header. Love that. Love what we have here graphic design-wise. So thank you to Tom. But Casey and I were sitting at lunch about a month ago, and we were going through names for this show, and we were thinking to ourselves, okay, what do we want to call this show? And I'm just going back and forth. I'm thinking, do I want to do something with the Queen City? Do I want to do something with Ohio? Do I want to pitch myself something that narrows me into the Southwest Ohio geographic region? I'm throwing names out left and right. Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And then I think to myself, oh man, I'm just getting overwhelmed. And as I'm sitting there eating my overpriced quesarito, I say to myself, oh, well, you know what? Maybe I just can't really be too picky with all this. And Casey looked at me and he said, well, what if he just called it that? I said, well, Casey, what do you mean? And he said, well, you can't be too picky. We shortened it, and Not Too Picky is what we came up with. Not Too Picky is the name of this program. You have all these stats, you have all these analytics, you have all these reasons why we bet these games. We bet because of whatever reason we feel like we can convince ourselves that this pick is a winner. I'm going to ask everybody to give me 1, 2, maybe 3 reasons of why they feel like this is the winner. This is why I got to put my hard-earned American currency. Hey, you know what? I say American currency. Maybe we have a worldwide audience here. Maybe we have people betting in euros. Why I'm going to put my money, my wages, on whatever I tell you to do or the chat tells you to do in this show. So that's the name of the show. We got all that behind us. Let's get into it. The first segment of the day, we're going to start off things with the Bengals. I'm not going to talk too much about the Bengals here because we talk about it more as this show goes on with Tim Murray. Bengals opened up as 6.5-point favorites. They jumped up to around 8. Now they're settling around 7, 7.5, depending on where you look. I personally just don't see a ton of value in that touchdown. Now, if it gets below the key number of a touchdown, if it gets down to that 6, 6.5 range, then maybe you start thinking about taking the Bengals. I don't know if I would take them above that 7 or 7.5 key number, but we'll let Tim talk more about that as this show goes along. Switch from the Bengals, we're now going to go to the Reds. And where do you find value in the Reds right now? They just got swept by the Pirates. They're not scoring a ton of runs. The total tonight in St. Louis for the Reds is 8. What I will say, and this is a regret, if you're going to take a total here, I would probably lean toward the over. St. Louis's starter has, I think, a 5+ ERA in his last 7 starts. One thing that I very much regret, and I know that I have a couple of Cardinals listeners into this show. I have a couple of Cardinals listeners that I see in the chat that may agree or disagree with me. Probably agree. I very much regret, even if it was just for the pure entertainment value of it, Barstool Sportsbook put a prop bet up about 3 or 4 weeks ago for Albert Pujols to hit 700 home runs. This was, I think, when he had 693 or somewhere in that range. I very much regret the ride that I would have been on over the last month and a half of the regular season, not taking Pujols to hit 700 home runs. For 2 reasons, I regret not taking that bet. One is because he's now past A-Rod, and I think he's at 690. Is he at 697? Is he at 696 or 697? I think he's at 697. I think he's 3 away. But with about 20 games left, it feels like he hit 2 in 2 days the other day. It feels like he is. It feels like he's right on the precipice of it. But the other reason that I kind of regret not taking Pujols to hit 700 home runs is I was looking at the top 100 MLB home run, the active leaders in the MLB the other day. We are nowhere even close to having another 700 home run hitter, maybe for the next 15 or 20 years. You look at some of the guys that are active, and maybe Mike Trout, but see, Mike Trout's getting up there in age. Low-key, you don't really think about it. Mike Trout's been around. He's in year 12. He's been around for a long time, and he's over halfway there, but I just don't know. I think he's right around the halfway point. He's right around the that 350 number, but maybe Mike Trout goes into the latter stages of his career and does what Pujols is doing right now and mashing in his last season, getting in close to that number. I regret not being along for the ride to see the 4th player in MLB history get to 700 home runs. I just think that that's something that we may not see again for a really, really long time. You look at Juan Soto, he's probably on pace. You could argue Machado, but Machado, he's getting a little up there too. He's been hurt. So where are you going to get 700 home runs? We'll see. But that bet was up there. I think it was like plus 1050 for Pujols to get to 700. And I guess then the question becomes, as Trace Fowler points out in the chat, he lands on 699. Is he really not going to come back? I don't know if he is. I I think he's done. What did he do? You bring him back for a week, he hits 1 home run, and he's gone? No. I think he's done. And then the St. Louis, the best fans in baseball, they are sorely disappointed. All right. One more thing to talk about here before we get into our interview. Let's talk FC Cincinnati. Let's talk about FC Cincinnati. Casey McAllister over here, our producer.
This is going to be the first time we've talked about it since starting these shows, and I love it. Mainly because last week, FCC, I think it was last week, they finally managed to get out of the negative in goal differential, and they're starting to get hot. So I'm hoping that the more and more we talk about this, that the more they start doing better and better. So continue on with your show. Continue.
Well, we're going to give FC Cincinnati some love here. Last year, FC Cincinnati was legitimately the freest money that you could find in a sports betting market. They were an automatic fade every single time they took the pitch. I mean, historically bad. If you needed money to pay a bar tab on the weekend, if you just needed some quick cash, it's the 877 cash now. That was FC Cincinnati last year. It didn't matter who they were playing, who their opponent was. They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory last year better than any team I can ever remember. If you are still thinking that that's what FC Cincinnati is, then I got a bridge to sell you, because you are sorely mistaken and misinformed, and they are a team that has turned it around. We're talking about a team that now, just a year later, they have all kinds of momentum. They haven't lost since July 17th. Now, they have 6 draws in that span, okay? So it's not like they've won every match since July 17th. But this is a team now that's in a position for the postseason with 4 matches remaining in the regular season. And Casey, you are a massive FC Cincinnati fan. So do you have anything that you'd like to contribute on this end to FC Cincinnati or how they've performed lately?
You know, I would just like to say that our front, our offense, our attackers are probably some of the best in MLS. It's what they really struggle with is just defense and getting back. And to me, it's a problem with them being not clutch when they need to be clutch on the defensive side. Our offense just continually scores and scores and scores. So much so, I'm afraid that we might not be able to keep all of them at some point. We're going to probably lose a few to whatever free agency comes around. But I would love to see what you're proposing here for this week for the FCC. What is the bet here?
All right, so they're going to be in Salt Lake City this weekend. First times these teams have played this year. FCC's plus 250 on the road on the money line. It's a 3-way money line. That's how you do it in soccer, 3-way money line. So you bet FCC or Real Salt Lake or the draw. Salt Lake is in a playoff spot in the West. I think they're in the last playoff spot in the West. You could take the plus 250 for Cincinnati, which I don't hate, or you do what I'm going to suggest here, and you take the over 2.5 combined goals for the match. It's juiced. It's heavily juiced. It's at minus 145 right now, so I can see where you say maybe the value isn't there at minus 145, but if you get over 3.5 goals, you get into plus money, and you don't really see that there either. FCC has scored at least 2 goals in their last 3. They scored 6 goals in their last match, which was at home. Were you there, Casey?
I was not there, but man, that game was just awesome to watch. Even on the couch, it's we don't get to see very many games like that in MLS. Period. I actually looked at it not too long ago. I think that's like maybe the 15th game that they've in MLS history that's had 6 goals scored for one team. So just to put it in perspective, how great that game was last week, and the fact that you mentioned that they've scored more than 2 goals in the last 6 games for them. I mean, like I said before, their offense is just too good to not at least get 2 goals.
Yeah. So I'm going to buy high here. I'm going to ride the wave, and I'm going to buy high. I'm going to say that FCC can get us 2. Which then leaves it in the hands of Salt Lake City. Can they get us 1? They have not scored a lot in their last few matches. In fact, I don't know if they've scored. I'd have to go back and look. I know they've been held scoreless in multiple matches in their last few. So can Salt Lake get us 1? And that would push us over the top. But that's something that I would look at. That game is in Salt Lake City on Saturday. On Saturday here in the city, you're going to have Cincinnati playing Miami of Ohio. That's going to be down at Paycor Stadium. Oktoberfest is this weekend down in Cincinnati. It is a busy, busy weekend of activities down here in the Cincinnati area. A lot of fun going on around here. So now